So comparison is the thief of joy, as they say, but it's also the thief of wisdom. You don't know enough about somebody else's situation to truly say that they're living some better life, or that type of life, that type of social status, whether it's high social status or low social status, guarantees anything, any kind of outcome in someone's life. On one hand, we can say that sometimes when a person faces insurmountable odds, they have a kind of pressure that can make them into somebody really special. But if that was the magic formula, then why are there so many poor people? Why are there so many, oppressed people? Wouldn't you think the boldest, bravest, most competent, world-shaping individuals would be just pumping out of countries like Somalia, or you name it, some country that has a lot of struggle? So it's not necessarily the bad conditions that guarantee someone becoming strong or successful, but they can contribute it. You do need a certain amount of friction and terrible situation to make you strong. The other side of the equation, it's tempting to say that a person of privilege will automatically become soft. Now, I have firsthand experience why this story about privilege is not always true, that it's not true that just because someone has privilege, they're going to lose it all, like it's some fatalistic cycle. However, we do like this kind of Shakespearean tragedy sort of thing, or we like an underdog story. Let me tell you about how comparing your life to somebody you think has some awesome life, or if I had that kind of life, I would be doing such and such thing, or thank God I don't have that privilege because that would ruin me. I wouldn't make any of those assumptions. So let me tell you about a kid I knew. So I used to live in Los Angeles, and I knew a few different kids that were, and by kids I mean like 20-year-olds, right? That were incredibly wealthy, like they were billionaires. I mean, I had a few friends in my circle that were multimillionaires. These were literal trust fund kids. And even they, they had discipline and they worked jobs and stuff. It's not at all true that just because someone's a trust fund person that they have no interest in working. And I'm talking blue collar jobs. These are people I knew from construction sites, okay, out in Malibu, California. It's kind of like the Matthew principle. To those who have, more shall be given. And there are plenty of people who are born into a great opportunity and make more out of it. Anyway, there was a billionaire kid I knew. He was, in a circle that was above my circle, right? And I had some intermediary friends that I had known for a long time, much, much wealthier than my family. I mean, my family's like upper middle class, and by most standards, anybody who's upper middle class in California is going to be pretty wealthy. But this isn't any intergenerational wealth that I have. No. A few bills paid, sure, I'll admit that. But the comparison between my life and their lives was huge. This kid was part of a family that was in the film industry. I'll say nothing more, but they used to take a vacation to, let's say, Hawaii, right? Something like that. They would go to a very fancy hotel, and it was kind of a yearly thing. So they'd go for a couple of weeks in the summer, let's say something like North Shore, Oahu. I don't know, it's the Green Turtle Club. I don't know, some ritzy hotel, presidential suite. Now this kid had a sibling. And it's important to know the difference between these two siblings. Sibling 1, drug addict, degenerate into just trying to be a rapper, getting a bunch of tattoos, kind of cringe stuff. I mean, and then there's sibling 2, took business seriously, pivoted from their father's wealth, and generated their own career super quickly, naturally. Took advantage of their network, took advantage of their money, but had the skill to back it up and the drive. Sibling 1 could have done that, but for whatever reason, in their dharma, their spiritual path, their laziness, their character, got bumped on the head when they were a kid, who knows? He didn't choose that path. He chose the path of drugs. He chose the path of, it's weird, but some of his closest friends were people, very low class, like criminals, intentionally surrounding himself like that. It was almost like how Charlie Sheen's best friend at one point was a crack dealer, some fat crack dealer. You'd think a guy like Charlie Sheen, who could hang out with anybody, this top tier actor, could have interesting friends, do interesting things, just sat around smoking crack with some fat guy. Do you want to live Charlie Sheen's life? You might think when you see something like Wall Street or Ferris Bueller's Day Off, you're like, wow, this guy is going to be doing some interesting shit. And then he's just this overpaid crack addict. This is what our society produces on one level. So these billionaire kids, their family takes these ritzy vacations every year. One year, something bad happens. One of the friends that the kid brings along overdoses on drugs. They, decide to stay in the hotel when they could go out and enjoy the beach, go surfing, go snorkeling, whatever. Go do something interesting. But they stay inside and do drugs. And the friend dies. Now here's the real difference in privilege. This kid was so wealthy and interconnected that he was able to get an airlifted emergency helicopter to, let's say, the next island to jump the line for an emergency organ transplant that saved his life. Whereas the regular kid, the not super wealthy kid, died in the hotel. Now, there's probably many stories like this that you don't hear about, because this is something you'd have to know from firsthand, account from being close enough to this kind of person. Now, of course, sibling 2 was enjoying the vacation like any normal person would. Now, if you were to look at these people when they were young, like in middle school and high school, you would think, wow, man, they've got this golden opportunity. Well, sure, one of them did. But I might bet that sibling 2 would have had similar fortune if they were in my family. They didn't have this like literal opulent level of wealth, but the opportunity to go to college, your mom buys you a car, that kind of stuff that for a lot of people is like, dang, you're ahead on the game, bro. It's like, yeah, sure. I'm grateful for it. But there's levels to this game that you have no clue. The kind of second, third, fourth, fifth chances that super rich people are given, and they'll still fuck it up. Now, your life cannot be compared to somebody like that. Most people are going to be way too humble to even think that they would deserve that kind of second, third chance. And so I would say that if you don't have a sense of gratitude that you're building, like a deep esoteric sense of gratitude for the opportunity you have at hand, then I don't think you're even playing at the entry level of what making content or building a business. And let's be honest, this content is partially about inbound marketing, but it's also partially about authentic storytelling. The degree to which it's one or the other depends on who's listening, and depends on, if they want my services or not. But I'm not here to pitch my services. No, my content has to evolve significantly before something like that gets mingled into this channel. Now, on the flip side, I have extended family that are from overseas. And I have a cousin who dropped out of high school, basically, and started an electronics shop in England. And this guy is one of the most successful people, serial entrepreneurs I know. Like, this is the dude who's actually, like, on the phone, making deals, has understood the secondhand electronics game, the reselling game, like no other. He was just, like, born for it. And he didn't really have any opportunities. He just showed up. We can talk about so many of these stories. But the wisdom in not comparing your life to somebody else is in the same capacity of not comparing one book to another. So what do we make of seeing somebody who's doing better than us? All we can make of is, do they have a kind of talent that you would replicate? Now, that's something you can compare yourself to. But make sure you have the emotional strength to say, well, that's a Platonic ideal. If we want to take some Greek philosophy, that's a place to constantly aim at. It's not a place you might ever arrive to. But what if, when we're talking particularly about creative skills, that a kind of attractive gravity happens when you keep aiming for a certain level of mastery that you think you need. And what ends up happening is the unconscious style that you're working on emerges as a property of the consistency. And really, what happens with any type of consistent routine at all is that when all the comparison is done and all the motivation is done, and you're left with the next page of your story that you have to write, you look at the clock and the time's ticking. Well, you have your perfect condition for executing something that's at least authentic. And that's the best you can do throughout your entire life, is pushing for this authenticity. And that's why it's the big buzzword. The other illusion with comparison is that we want to play this game where we tell ourselves a story that allows some kind of certainty to be achieved so that you can write off any ambiguity about the meaning of the story. Instead of saying, I don't really know what it means completely. I don't know what I would do if I was born a billionaire. I don't know what I would do if I was born more beautiful, taller, more athletic. You think you do, right? I've met people that are so athletic. I knew kids that were so athletic in high school. Huge. They could have been pro basketball players. I'm not even kidding. My high school was highly rated for basketball. And for whatever reason, it's like, dude, it's right there. You could grab it. But maybe there is something about God's plan that has everything to do with you removing things that could be major, major distractions to that real plan. It's a hard thing for me to believe, to be honest. However, one of the beautiful things that I've learned with meditation over the years is that one of the entire points of meditating is that you stop yourself from doing the wrong thing long enough for all sorts of things to play out in your head. And then you end up doing at least the bare minimum of the right thing. So when we stop comparing and we stop measuring and we allow ourselves, God forbid, to get bored long enough, well, the one benefit you have with that is that you're not doing the wrong thing. It's so easy to get busy throughout the day and end up pushing into 1,000 directions that are fundamentally meaningless. And take it from me, somebody who's literally trying to be a professional reply guy on X. And why am I doing that? It's like a survey. It's like going into a jungle and, witnessing the dynamics of an environment and then trying not to be changed by the environment too much, trying not to be too reactive to the environment. The good thing about the X algorithm is that it's becoming a lot more, I think it's becoming better, but maybe it's because I've been gaming it to help me. And one of the reasons I'm bringing this up, this topic of comparison and life choice and stuff, is that one of my recent posts it's a reply, has gone viral for my purposes, right? It's a complete outlier in the reactions I got from others. And it all has to do with a video that this creator, dark mode in dad mode, or whatever, dad mode and dark mode, he posted this video about being 40 years old and having some regrets. And it hit with a lot of people. It's controversial because the people who want to be tough will say, well, yeah, that's what you get for fucking up, blah, blah, blah. You can cry all day. But that's like totally diminishing the trajectory of the whole story he told. And then there's another crowd that just totally resonates. It's like the more general crowd is like, yeah, I totally get that. Everyone's had that kind of feeling like, damn, looking back, time flew and I wasn't able to make decisions the way I wanted to, the way I would now. Okay, so we make those decisions differently, right? I mean, these are all reasons to check in with the Bible, by the way. And so making this little post, this reply that had some real juice behind it, a lot of people resonated with my reply. Because it's so easy to just come up with a quick statement because you don't have to think about it. You can just say, well, geez, I'm glad that's not my life. I don't have any regrets. Yeah, sure you don't. And it's also easy to over empathize with it, which wasn't the goal of that guy's video anyway. Like, oh, finally, other people are feeling my pain. Yeah, well, you're not supposed to dwell in it. The dude's taking action about it. That's a different subject than simply ruminating is the word, to ruminate on that. And so when you find yourself comparing your life to someone else, I looked at that guy and I was like, geez, that guy's, 5 or 6 years older than me. I felt like I had those regrets a couple years ago and started taking a lot more massive action. I mean, I quit drinking alcohol, I don't know, when I was 29. I stopped using drugs almost a decade ago. Those are only part of the equation, right? removing the bad. You know, some seriously powerful people out there are able to pull off incredible feats of business and art while under the influence of drugs and stuff. And it's like, do not romanticize that one bit. That's an outlier, and do not count on that. But in the process of getting a lot more clear about my life and getting healthy and all that, the big remainder was the granular nuances of, okay, now that I have a lot more awareness, I got to control this awareness. I got to control what's coming in. And then this magnetic thing starts to happen. The more you create, the more you condition yourself around the things that you're interested in creating. It's not the other way around. It's like you don't think about what you want to make and then it gets made. You make stuff, and then as you make more stuff, you think better about it. That's why you cannot wait to just make anything. You know, you have to allow a bunch of rough drafts to come in. I mean, I look forward to the 100th video that I make. I don't know if I'll hit 100 videos this year, but I am getting onto this regular schedule where at least there is no friction between me speaking and me capturing it on camera. Now, if you wanted to compare your life to mine, let's say for a second here, if you're 20, then you should think incredibly hard about Psalm number 1 from the Bible. It's something about, blessed is the man who does not walketh with the counsel of evil, or something like that, with wicked men. And one of the things about living in Los Angeles is that it is a place filled with wicked men who know how to act like angels. At least in other big cities I visited, I've been fortunate to have traveled. And I don't know, do you travel when you're young? Do you travel when you're older? I don't know, travel, man. It doesn't take that much time. Like, people act like taking a week off from your life to go travel somewhere is going to fuck up your entire business trajectory. I don't know about that. You know, travel every now and then. I have been able to see wicked men from different parts of the world. You know, people trying to, you know, hassle me. I've been pickpocketed in different countries and shit. You know, and then just looking at straight liars, you know, people at hostels and shit, and just, you know. In Los Angeles, you have the ultimate gurus, the ultimate life coach, yoga instructor, all this shit. I was a yoga instructor, but I really enjoyed calisthenics, and it's a different game down at Muscle Beach and Santa Monica Beach. You've got serious athletes and incredibly inspiring health culture. That's like the good side of it all. The bad side, the dark side of it, is like washed up actresses and actors from Z-list movies and reality TV shows teaching classes and being spiritual fucking leaders. And nah, some of them kill it on Instagram, I'm not gonna lie, but you want to have some fucking integrity, right? But I got too close to some people that don't look wicked on the outside. And, you know, it took me until I was in my mid-20s to start taking spirituality seriously. Like, I mean prayer and asking God for help. I think probably the biggest advantage anybody has is if you do have a good Christian upbringing and you got conditioned to use technology in a constructive way. Those people have an edge over anybody else. And that's something that will transcend class or wealth or anything. So if I was looking for an edge as a 20-year-old, I wouldn't necessarily be so concerned with whether or not you're living the good life, because you can live a good life that's holy. You can go travel. You can take some time off here and there and go figure things out. I mean, I was able to get an office job from a construction working position without a college degree. I mean, I don't know what to say. You can apply yourself in many different ways. But I think that people are just have so much damn FOMO and so much damn need to have extra money beyond having some kind of repeatable business plan. I mean, isn't that what you really want? You want some repeatable business skills, some repeatable business plan that keeps you relevant? I mean, you will lose your edge the moment you have enough money to do nothing. I've definitely seen that. There's plenty of that in Venice Beach, California. Guys that just fucking lose everything because they just made it all too fast. You know, what if you slowed down your life just a tad? I don't know about work-life balance, but slowing your life down in key moments so that you know that you're moving in a direction you actually want to go. You know, we're about to enter the age of the exponential. Trillionaires will be made. What the fuck are you going to do with $1 trillion? At what point does having more money matriculate into the general improvement of human life on Earth? You know, Elon Musk is improving things, whether you like him or not just because there's more money in his accounts, but it's because things are actually getting built. I mean, isn't that what we really want, is something to be built? You think that guy's got a work-life balance? You think that guy gives a shit about retiring? You know, about hitting it big in crypto and then never working again? I don't know about that. If you're going to compare yourself to anybody, take the inspiration element of why somebody is attractive in your mind, and then compare it to who you were yesterday, and dial in the difference between this platonic version that you want to be and the difference you've made in the day-to-day and the week-to-week. If you see yourself moving slightly closer to that person, you know, maybe for the time being, the next days, weeks, and months, you can say, okay, I'm getting momentum. But don't be another casualty of society just because there's some sobering YouTube video or some clever copywriter on the internet has gotten you to overly concern yourself with making money. Ultimately, there's going to be a major economic shift that completely crushes many different business angles of arbitrage and basic wealth transfer that are just baked into the nature of the system. And that something that actually gets built with the community is going to matter way more. And so ironically, even though we're trending more to a me first type of society, technology is actually going to be very much poised at bringing communities together, because it is unsustainable, the division that people have through technology, that when some kind of breakthrough, I don't know how it's going to manifest, but when some kind of breakthrough happens where technology becomes more inviting to community building, and it really is already in some ways, it's just most people aren't tapping into it. The moment that happens, and you know, it could be rather quick with AI, you know, I think we're going to see a totally different landscape of what it means for people to collaborate resources and build things we actually want to see in the world. Anyway, I hope you write the next page of your story with a realistically calibrated sense of comparison. Good luck, friends.